Boris Johnson has today apologised unreservedly over a video of No.10 staff laughing about a party that took place in No.10 last Christmas, while lockdown rules were in effect.
Mr. Speaker, may I begin by saying that I understand and share the anger up and down the country at seeing No.10 staff seeming to make light of lockdown measures.
Prime Minister's questions today, the PM announced an investigation by the Cabinet Secretary to establish the facts, which were first reported in the Daily Mirror. He said that disciplinary action would follow if needed. This comes after a week of No.10 stonewalling questions and insisting there was no party. But the PM said he was sickened and furious by the clip emerged last night, which showed staff joking about the party just 4 days after it took place. He also agreed to hand over any evidence that was requested by the police. So No.10 have changed their tune a little bit today from there was no party, which was said as recently as last night, to today saying the Cabinet Secretary will investigate what did or did not happen. But either way, Boris Johnson has been very keen to remove himself from responsibility for the whole episode, and there's not a huge amount of confidence that the Cabinet Secretary will actually get to the bottom of it. Why is that? A few reasons. First of all, No.10 say the probe is specifically into claims that 40 or so staff had a packed Christmas party in No.10 on December the 18th last year. Now, that was while London was in Tier 3 lockdown. The problem with that is there are allegations about other festive events that the Cabinet Secretary won't be looking at. A second was said to be a leaving do for a No.10 staffer on November 27th last year when England was in national lockdown. Boris Johnson himself is said to have spoken at that event. Thirdly, Dominic Cummings, remember him, is claiming parties took place in a private Downing Street flat, which included the Prime Minister and Carrie Johnson on November 13th. Now, Boris Johnson has today denied a November 13th party, and a spokeswoman for Carrie Johnson has also denied any rule breaking. But the Cabinet Secretary won't be looking into either of those events, and that means there'll only be an investigation if police decide to do one. The police have said while they'll consider evidence, they don't routinely go back and prosecute people over old lockdown breaches from a year ago. But that's something that Keir Starmer, a former chief prosecutor, took a little bit of issue with at PMQs.
An internal investigation into what happened. The situation is as clear as day. I thought last week was... Mr. Speaker, I thought last week was bad enough. Surely the Prime Minister isn't now going to start pretending that the first he knew about this was last night. Surely. We've all watched the video of the Prime Minister's staff, including his personal spokesperson. They knew there was a party. They knew it was against the rules. They knew they couldn't admit it, and they thought it was funny. It's obvious what happened. Anton Decker ahead of the Prime Minister on this.
Despite his apology, Boris Johnson is still insisting he was assured there was no party and no rules were broken. He's not saying the rules weren't broken anymore. He's just saying he was assured that they weren't. But that's how he's trying to distance himself from the allegations around the December 18th event. So if there was a party, how could they possibly argue it didn't break the rules? A few ways there have been some speculation about in the last few hours about a few loopholes they might rely on. Firstly, quote, permitted organised gatherings were allowed under the laws if they happened on premises operated by a public body and organisers carried out a risk assessment. But at these gatherings, mingling between different household groups was still banned by law. Secondly, gatherings which were, again, quote, reasonably necessary for work purposes had an exemption under the law. This is the one that they're most likely to try and rely on, since they even joked about calling it a business meeting in the clip that leaked last night. But at the time, the government was very keen to note that these exemptions would not cover a work Christmas lunch or party where it is a primarily social activity. So it would be a struggle. Thirdly, it's been suggested that they might use an obscure part of the law to claim government buildings have an immunity clause. But even if this wasn't filled with complex legal ambiguities, it certainly wouldn't be in the spirit of the rules at the time. In any case, No.10 wouldn't say whether they plan to rely on any of the above when they were asked about it today. In fact, it's unclear if they plan to rely on any of them or if they were just hoping the story would have gone away by now. So what happens next is really anyone's guess, but if Boris Johnson was hoping the story was going to go away, he's probably going to be disappointed.